Hey there. I love helping people know and follow Jesus. It is one of my favorite things in my whole life. When someone hears the good news of Jesus, understands it, and believes it for the very first time, there's just nothing like it. There's nothing like watching someone go from the domain of darkness into the kingdom of light and know that they'll get to be God's kid forever and ever and ever. And so one of the things I also love doing is helping other people help others know and follow Jesus. And so you might have someone in your life right now that has started connecting to our church family or a spiritual community. Maybe they're in your house church, and they've been coming around, but you're not sure where they're at in the context of trusting Jesus. I can think of 3 specific people in our church right now that have invited people to either come to a Sunday service or to house church, and they're coming, which is awesome. That tells us that they're at least interested in knowing more about God and what it might mean to follow Jesus, and perhaps even reading the Bible for the first time in their lives. But a lot of times in our culture, we'll just celebrate the win of going to church without then providing clarity of what it really means to believe in Jesus for salvation. And so I just wanted to share what that looks like in my own life, in moving along the journey of helping someone know and follow Jesus. So if I had invited a family to start coming on Sundays, I've already got some relational equity with them. They trust me. Maybe they're friends, and they say, like, hey, we're going to come this Sunday. They're like, man, that's awesome. I'm always kind of a little like, oh, what's the sermon this Sunday? How's that going to land? And I'll just tell you, I'm always shocked at how God just so personally meets people over and over and over again, far beyond anything we could control. So I'm praying for them. God, would you move in their hearts? Would you open their hearts to your truth? And then if they come, we say, man, I would love to just meet up with you and hear what God's doing in your life. And I'd love to hear more about your story. So I want to set up a specific meeting where we're going to talk about spiritual things. That's kind of big idea number 1, is I want to set up a meeting where we're going to talk about spiritual things. So the table is set where we're going to have an honest conversation about what God might be up to, or we're going to be talking about spiritual things. And then at that meeting, I'm going to ask a lot of questions. I'm going to say, man, it's been so great that you're coming around. Like, man, what's your past like with faith or religion or church? And I want to learn more about what their upbringing was like. Is this brand new, or did they grow up in church and then it went south? Like, I want to learn more about what that was like for them. And then I'm going to just be listening and listening and listening. And that's going to help me contextualize how I might share the gospel with them. But then at some point, I'm going to look for an opportunity to just plainly share the gospel. What that looks like for me is sharing an illustration about a boat on the ocean. I'll share it very briefly. I share about imagine you're on a boat, goes way out in the ocean. There's no other boats around. Let's say that boat gets a hole in it. You're like, oh my goodness, that's real bad. And let's say you plug the hole, and as soon as you do, another hole springs up. The boat is sinking. This is supposed to be a picture of our lives with sin, that we can't save ourselves. There's no other boats around. We don't see any way to be rescued. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, another boat comes up, and the captain says, hey, I've got a son on board who specializes in sinking boat rescue. And I use this to then talk about how God rescues us, but we've got to trust him. And so at some point, you're on your boat. The water's now up to your waist. You're like, I think my boat's going down. And you go, hey, captain, I need to be rescued. He grabs you, pulls you on his boat, and then sends his son onto your boat, who goes all the way underwater and seemingly dies, and raises up, and the holes on the boat are gone, and now they're on the son. And then I share the gospel. That I did not reach out and grab the captain, that I didn't plug the holes and save my boat, that the only way we can be saved is by God's grace reaching into our lives and rescuing us from our death. And that happens when we believe in Jesus. And then I would just ask them plainly, have you had a moment where you said, Jesus, I want you to be the captain of my life? You have full control, that only you, the Son of God, who died on the cross for my sins, was buried in the ground and rose from the dead, can save my life. Have you ever had a moment where you said, I believe in Jesus? And then let's just say they're like, I haven't had that moment. Then I would ask the question, what would keep you from doing that today? I've gotten to ask this to numbers and numbers and numbers of people. And this question has been so clarifying because it helps them think through, what would stop me from doing that? And I tell them, I have no pressure. I'm not freaking out about you making this decision today. I would love for you to decide to follow Jesus. But what I'm ultimately after is you knowing that God loves you so much and he has a plan for your life. And I'd love for you to say yes to following Jesus today. But I have no pressure in that decision. And so then I'll just answer any questions they might have of like, oh, well, I don't know enough about God, or I don't, these kind of things. And then what I'll do is I'll just walk through some really clear belief statements. And I'll say, hey, if you believe this, then just say, I believe that. And I'll say, I believe that God loves me. And I'll say, do you believe that? I believe that God made me on purpose and for purpose. I believe that I chose to walk away from God's purposes, and the Bible calls that sin. And I have sin in my life that has separated me from God. And I believe that God doesn't want us to be separated, so he sent his son Jesus to die on the cross for my sins. He was buried in the ground, and he rose from the dead, proving that he really is God and really could pay for my sins. And if they believe those things, then they're God's kid. And so we'll walk through that whole process, and then I'll pretty quickly try to have follow-up and next steps from there. And so I wanted to share this with you, because there's several of you, and I was like, I don't know if I could meet with each of you before Christmas. I want you to have these opportunities to share the gospel. So I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions about how can I help my friends know Jesus, man, I would love to help in that journey, or you could talk to your house church leader. Our desire is to help people say yes to Jesus over and over and over again. I'm so excited that you're doing that with your life. I hope this is helpful, and let me know if we can be of any more help. God bless you guys.